What is up, everybody? Welcome to the second World Cup group preview here on Touchline Talk. Before I get started, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the content I put out every single week. And jumping in to Group B, starting with the co hosts, Australia. Australia's eighth World Cup appearance made it to the last 8 editions of the competition: 1995, 1999, 2003, 2007, 2011, 2015, and 2019. Best finish: 3 quarterfinals appearances: 2007, 2011, and 2015. You're named to know one of the stars of this tournament, particularly with it being on home soil, of course, is Sam Kerr. Sam Kerr has 2 NWSL MVPs. Sam Kerr, in 3 seasons at Chelsea, has won 3 WSL League titles and 3 FA Cups, made it to a Champions League final. Quite simply, she is the best pure goal scorer in this sport. She is arguably the best player in the world. And this World Cup is coming to her turf, which is a really, really fun thing that I'm really excited to kind of see how this goes and to see all of the attention that she gets. She scored 4 goals last World Cup in a single game. She doesn't need much introduction. She is one of the most important players in this tournament, full stop, because of what she means for this team and the way that she can carry this team. What I am really looking for, and my big question with this Australia team, is can they build on what they did in Tokyo and in the Tokyo Olympics, and can they take that next step? Because you had 5 straight quarterfinals in major tournaments before the 2019 World Cup. 2019 World Cup, exit in the round of 16, and then make it to the semifinals of the Tokyo Olympics, end up 4th. So you had this kind of consistent quarterfinals and then a slight dip, and then this really promising showing at the Tokyo Olympics. You're on home soil, as I've mentioned multiple times at this point. You probably have the best player in the world. If there is ever a time for this Australia team to go from being one of the 8 best teams in the world to one of the 4 best, and to get back to a semifinal, to reach a semifinal of a World Cup, to give themselves an opportunity to actually win one of these tournaments, to me, this is that chance. And so that's what I want to see with this team. Are they able to find another gear? Can they kind of be pushed to the next level by all of the fan support they're going to get? Because this team is good enough to do that. They're in that ballpark where if the favorites aren't going to win, they're one of the teams you have to talk about, especially considering where this tournament is taking place. They showed what they can do at the Olympics. It just hasn't always kind of happened that way during Sam Kerr's career. But that Olympics in Tokyo could be the start of the next level for this team. It could also be an aberration where you exit in the quarterfinals again and you don't really get to the very, very end of the tournament. That's what I'm curious about here, because the quarterfinals are the expectations. Are the expectation. Anything less than that's a massive disappointment. The question is, can they go even further than the quarterfinals, or is that kind of where this story is going to end? Second team in this group is your reigning gold medalist from those Tokyo Olympics, Canada. Canada, 8th World Cup appearance, exact same as Australia: 1995, 1999, 2003, 2007, 2011, 2015, 2019. Best finish: 2003, semifinals. My player to watch, my name to know here, is Ashley Lawrence. Recently announced she will be leaving PSG, but she went to PSG right out of college, has been a consistent contributor for that team that is obviously very, very good. She played every minute of the 2019 World Cup. She played all but 10 minutes of those Tokyo Olympics. She's a crucial piece for this Canadian team. My big question is, what impact are the injuries going to have? And you have different degrees of this with this Canada team. And as I'm recording this, have not seen the official roster yet. There's a preliminary roster out, in part because of these injuries. Janine Becky tore ACL. She is not participating in this tournament. That's question number 1. Can you replace her goal scoring? You have Jordan Heidema there, who's playing for OL Reign, has European experience, theoretically a very capable replacement. Got to actually see those goals get replaced, though, because Janine Becky has been such an important part of this team. Then you have the other part of this, which is all the players who have had significant injuries in the last year, who theoretically are good to go for this tournament. A, are they actually ready to go in at 100%? And B, this team, because of those injuries, has not really played together all that much in the past 12 months. Can they kind of pick things right back up where they were at the Olympics and put themselves in a position to win this tournament as well? Or is it going to be a little bit rusty, a little bit of just kind of miscommunication and not being on the same page because they haven't played together that much? You've got players coming in and out all the time, and they can't really find their rhythm. That's my big question here, because you don't need to worry about the talent level and what this team can do. They showed you at the Olympics. They can beat anybody on their day. The interesting part of this for me in this group in particular is that also I wouldn't be stunned if this is kind of a big letdown for Canada, because you have teams that are capable of taking points off them that I'm going to talk about next. And so I really feel like Canada is one of those teams that you could tell me anything is going to happen and I would believe you. I can see a world in which they don't get out of the group. I can see a world in which they win the entire tournament. There's just a wide variety of outcomes I feel like are possible with this team because of what they're capable of and also the unknowns with all of the injuries. Up next are World Cup debutantes Ireland. Of course, no best finish to reference because this is their first World Cup. My name to know here is Katie McCabe, not only because she is the most creative player in this Ireland attack, she is arguably the best player on this team. She is also the emotional heartbeat of this team. You saw the leadership and just what she brings from a personality standpoint during Arsenal's run to the Champions League semifinals. That was a team that was absolutely depleted, and there was Katie McCabe really kind of being the one to keep everything in check and keep them going. She just oozes leadership whenever I watch her play. I don't say that about many players, but it stood out immediately as I started watching that Arsenal team at the end of that Champions League run. That's in addition to what she gives you on the field, which is incredible versatility. She can play just about anywhere, set pieces, crosses, creativity, as I already mentioned, all of that kind of stuff. She is the focal point of this attack. Building off of that, my big question for this team is, can the Stars get help? Do the Stars get help? Because that's going to determine how this World Cup goes. Between Katie McCabe and Denise O'Sullivan, you have two outstanding building blocks to kind of form this team around. They were producing all kinds of goal contributions during qualifying, even though that's not necessarily what Denise Sullivan typically does at the club level with North Carolina Courage. But they're excellent. These two are excellent players. They also can't be your only source of offense, because Katie McCabe, to a certain extent, is kind of that by default. Denise Sullivan is not, I would argue. They're kind of having to do everything. And you've got to take some of the pressure off of them. So can somebody step up and start scoring some goals? Can somebody start contributing some assists and kind of just take the creative burden off of those two players? Because you know what they're going to give you. Ireland need more than just that if they're going to get out of this group. And then finally, Nigeria. Nigeria have participated in every World Cup. So this is number 9, going all the way back to 1991. Best finished quarterfinals in 1999. The name to know here, another pretty obvious one, Aziza Oshala, Barcelona star, led La Liga with 21 goals this season. She scored in the last 2 World Cups for Nigeria. One of the better attackers in the world. One of the best African players of all time. This team runs through her. She is the star. In addition to her, though, there are other very good attacking players on this team that are capable of putting together a string of goals and to start really kind of just going on a tear in front of net. It hasn't happened for Nigeria, though. they've struggled to score goals in World Cups, struggled to score goals against high-level opponents. And defensively, it's just not a strength of this team. And so I'm looking at this in a scenario in terms of how do they get out of this group. And to me, my big question, what it has to be is, can this attack level up? Can you get not just Oshala, but a couple other players scoring goals too? Can you score 4 or 5 goals in the group stage in this really difficult group, this group of death? Because to me, that's what it's going to take. The talent is there. It just hasn't necessarily translated in these high-level competitions against the best teams in the world. And so as a result, I do find it difficult to see where Nigeria is going to come away with more than a point. And you also have this odd situation where you have two. This is, to me, easily the most balanced, best overall group, without a doubt. As I mentioned, it's been dubbed the group of death. I completely agree with that. You also have two clear favorites in Australia and Canada. And then you have two teams that are capable of messing things up, ruining somebody's tournament, and finding a way to sneak in. Not only that, you have these two teams, Nigeria and Ireland, playing each other last. And so the goal has to be just keep yourself alive until that last game. Because if you lose your first two, you're playing for third place here. Because Australia and Canada will already have 6 points. They'll be playing for the top of the group, and Ireland and Nigeria will be playing for third, which in this World Cup doesn't matter from a advancing standpoint. So if one of these two teams, because I kind of put them in the same category, they're both unlucky that the draw worked out this way. Ireland might be a second favorite in a group, a team expected to get out in a different situation. But you put two of the best 10 teams in the world out there, two teams that just made the semifinals of the last major tournament, and now you're talking about a different conversation. So that's the big thing with these two teams. If there's going to be chaos in this group, you've got to just find a way to keep yourself mathematically alive heading into that last game. Because somebody's going to drop points, and you're going to have your best chance at 3 points. This will get real interesting if Ireland or Nigeria are able to beat Canada or Australia because of the way that this schedule is lined up. I ultimately expect, though, the two favorites are going to do what they need to do. I'm going to pick Australia to top this group. I'm really buying that team at home. I have some questions about Canada. I still have Canada second. I'll go Ireland third, Nigeria fourth. So it's definitely the most balanced group, and it's also still a clear top tier and a bottom tier. Just the gap between the top and bottom is not as great as it is in some other groups. These are four very good teams that we'd be having conversation about different conversation about the other two if they weren't drawn with Australia and Canada. Nevertheless, that is where we are, and that is Group B. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.